Hi. In this video, I'm going to write a program called comparison. I'm going to start by declaring the class, public class comparison. And I'm going to add the main method, public static void main string array args. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to use a scanner to read in two numbers, number 1 and number 2. And then I'm going to check, are those numbers equal, are they not equal, is one greater than the other, etc. And I'm going to write the output depending on the comparisons. So let's start by creating a scanner. Scanner is declared in the package JavaUtil. So in order for me to be able to use the type scanner in my program, I need to add an import statement. I just want to point out here I have a variable declaration with a type scanner, a variable name input, and here I'm going to create a new scanner instance that I'm going to use to read in user input. So at this point I declare two variables, integer number 1 and integer number 2. And before I can read in a number from the user, I need to prompt the user, I need to let the user know what I'm expecting. Let's say enter first integer, and now the user can enter the input next int. Now the user can enter the next integer, and I'm going to assign whatever the user enters to my local variable number 1. Now I'm going to prompt the user for the second number, system out print enter second integer. And once again I'm going to read in the number provided by the user, and I assign it to my local variable, in this case to number 2. At this point I have two local variables, number 1, number 2. Both of them have a number provided by the user. And now that I have two numbers, I can compare those numbers. And I say, well, if number 1 is number 2, then system out printf %d is the same as %d. Number 1 is the same as number 2. I want to point out that we have a double equal sign, equal, equal. Now I'm making a second check. I say, well, if number 1 is not number 2, then print system out print my number is not the same as the other number. My numbers once again are number 1 and number 2. So here are my format specifiers. This %d stands for digit, and I am going to substitute it with number 1. The second %d, once again a digit, is going to be substituted with number 2. So that means number 1 is not number 2. I'm going to make a few more checks. So here I say if number 1 is less than number 2, system out print f %d is less than %d number 1, number 2. If number 1 is greater number 2, system out printf %d greater %d number 1, number 2, if number 1 less or equal number 2, system out printf %d less or equal %d number 1, number 2, and last but not least is if number 1, oops, I have a typo here, let's fix that, number 1 greater equal number 2, well, in that case we are going to print %d is greater or equal %d. So that looks pretty good to me. At this point, I'm going to compile. I'm going to increase the size of my output window, and there is a problem. So it shows me, it says no suitable method found for print system out print. The problem is here I'm using format specifiers and I'm using a simple print statement instead of the required printf. So we're going to fix that real quickly. So let's look, it happened right here. We're going to change this to printf. I'm going to compile again. I increase the size of my output window, and now I'm going to run. My first number is 777, and my second number is also 777. And now it tells me, well, these numbers are equal, they're also less or equal, they're also greater or equal. I can run my program again, no need to compile. I say, well, what happens if my first integer is 1000 and my second integer is 2000? In this case, my two numbers are not equal. 1000 is less than 2000, 1000 is less or equal to 2000. And one last run. This time I say, well, my first number is 2000, my second number is 1000. Those two numbers, once again, are not the same. I have this not equal, exclamation mark equal. That's how the not equal Java operator looks like. 2000 is greater than 1000, and also 2000 is greater or equal to 1000. So this is it. A quick recap. Here's my class comparison. I'm creating a instance of scanner which I'm going to use to read in numbers from the user, and I'm going to assign those numbers to two local variables, number 1, number 2. My variables are declared right here. Important, every time before I read in a value from the user, I'm using a prompt to let the user know what kind of input I expect, and then once I have my two numbers, I'm ready to make a whole series of comparisons. So this was it for today. See you next time.